Jai Hind everyone. My name is Amrita Bhatnagar. I am from CSE department of AKGEC. Today I am going to give you a good explanation about the software size estimation techniques. So these are all are the outlines of the lecture. Firstly, we will understand what is the meaning of software estimation technique. Next is these two techniques are we will discuss line of code and function points. Now we will understand firstly what is the meaning of software size estimation. Software size estimation is the process through which we estimate the size of software to be developed. We use it to determine software cost. When we are going to develop a software, then there should be a estimation techniques to find out the size of the software, so that we can estimate other things also, budget and timing we can also estimate. So to estimate these all the things, we have to estimate the size of our project. Hence, tight size estimates are critical to correct cost estimations. Our project can run behind schedule or exceed if they are not correctly measured. So most companies use several estimation technique for the size estimation, and there are two major techniques which we can use. First one is the line of code and second one is the function point, which we will discuss in this lecture. Okay. So firstly, this is the line of code. What is the meaning of line of code? Line of code means number of lines in our program or in our software. So you can see here we have 18 lines in the program. So now we can estimate the size of the program here. In this case, we use only the that lines which don't have any comments, because in this case we have there is one comment. In the fourth line you can see here, fourth line there is a comment, so we can remove this line from the counting. So now we have 17 LOC or line of code in the program. So this is the technique of line of code. A line of code is any line of program text that is not a comment or blank line, regardless of the number of statements or fragments of statements on the line. This specifically includes all lines containing program header, declaration and executable and non-executable statements. This is the predominant definition for line of code used by the researcher. Line of code is programming language dependent. Line of code need to be estimated before design, but this line of code technique cannot be accepted by the universally because it have many drawbacks. So that's why we have another technique which is very important and crucial. Next technique is your function point. Now next is the advantage and disadvantages of LOC. So we will discuss advantages of the LOC. It is easy to count for counting number of assembly lines, then direct estimation metrics. So these are the main advantages of LOC. But we have again we have disadvantages also have for LOC. We have major disadvantages technological dependent, because in the we have different languages like Python, Java, C, C++. So it depends on the language. Number of lines can be depend on the language, because in the a program can be written in the Python and only in the 3 lines, but in the Java it can take 10 to 15 lines. So this technique is basically based on the technology only. Now the next technique is the function point measure. Now what is the meaning of function point or function count? Alan Albert, while working for IBM, recognized the problem in the size estimation in the 1970s and developed a technique which is called function point analysis, which appeared to a solution to the size measurement problem. So this is again a techniques to find out the size of a particular software. So yeah, this is the developed by the Alan Albert. Now function point, we should in the Alan Albert's function point, we have to calculate these 5 factors. What are these factors? First one, the inputs. Inputs means the number of inputs which can be input in the software, or we can say information entering the system. Next is the output. What is the meaning of output? Output means the number of outputs which we can find out from the software, or we can say that information leaving from the system. Inquiries, request for instant access of the information. So we can have different type of inquiry from the system. So these all are number of inquiries we can count and we will use here. Internal logical file. Now, what is the meaning of internal logical file? Information held within the system. Okay, so we have different files in the system to proper work of the or working of the system. These file is known as the internal file, but there are some external file also which have some related data of the system, but it's stored in the other system, or we can say information held by other system that is used by the system being analyzed. So this information is stored in the another system, but this information is used by our system. So we will analyze all these type of internal interface files again. So we have these 5 factors. First one, input, number of input which we give provide to the software. Output, the output, possible output which come from the software. Inquiries, number of different type of inquiries can be handled by the system. And internal logical files are those files which are its internal own files, and information is stored in the own system. It's our system. Or external interface file is the that file which are stored in the other system but used in our system. These all are the 5 factors in the function point. Now you can see this diagram. We can show here. This is our system, the software system which we are going to make. So this is the software system. Now this is a user, and user will interact with the system by the help of inputs and output. The data which is given by the user to the system is known as the inputs, fine, and the outputs, number of outputs which is given by the software. After giving the input, the system will process the inputs and give the outputs. So this is the first factor which we have discussed earlier, number of inputs which a user can give to the system, and outputs, number of outputs calculated by the system and given to the user. And another thing is inquiries. User can give can ask some inquiries from the system also. So we will calculate all the different type of inquiries which can be asked by the user from the system. And the next is the ILF. ILF is for the internal logical file. These all are the internal file of the system. So we will calculate the number of internal file in the function point also. Next is the EIF, which is known as an external interface. So these all are the files which are stored in the other system. So you can see here, this is the other system which is connected to the our system. So this information which is stored in the other system is used in the our system only. Right. So we will calculate all these type of files also. So these are the main 5 parameter, and this is the working how the function point unit system work out. Fine. Now the 5 functional point again we will see in the detail. Units are divided into 2 categories: data function types. First one is internal logical file, a user identifiable group of logical related data or control information maintained within the system. So internal logical file are those files which are maintained within the system. And the next is the external interface file, and these all are the those files which are maintained within the another system. So this is a major difference between these 2 files, and the information is being used in the our system also. So this is the main difference between these 2 type of data function types. And next is the external input. External input, number of input which can provide to the system from the outside of the world. External output are those output which can be calculated by the system and given to the user. We have already discussed it. And the external inquiries are the inquiries or an EQ is an elementary process that is made up to the input output combination that results in a data retrieval. So these are the inquiries by which we can retrieve some data. So we will calculate inquiries also here. These are the major 5 factors in the function point. We will calculate these 5 factors, and then we can apply function point analysis, and then we will find out the size of the project. Now, special feature of the function point. Now we will see what are the main functions of the function point. Function point approach is independent of the language, which is the major drawback of the line of code. But in the function point, we don't depend on the particular language or tool or methodology used for the implementation. That is, they do not take into consideration programming languages, database management system, process hardware, or any other database technology. So, the major point is the function point is independent of the language, right? Function point can be estimated from the requirement specification or design specification, thus making it possible to estimate development efforts in the early phases of the development. So, function point can be calculated when you are not have code of your system, you have only design a system or you have only requirement specification only. Then also we can start to calculate function point. So, there is a possibility in the function point we can start this particular process from the early development of the software. But in the line of code, we have to wait for the coding purpose also. When the coder will write down all the code, then we can calculate the line of code. So, these function points can be calculated in the early phase of the software development. Function points are directly linked to the statement of the requirement. Any change of the requirement can be easily be followed by the re-estimate function. So, in this case, function point, in the case of function point, requirement can be changed, then again it can be re-estimated. This is the facility of the function point. Function point are based on the system users' external view of the system. Non-technical users of the software have a better understanding of the function point are measuring. So, when we talk about the function point, the major advantage of the function point is that non-technical user also can estimate the size of the software, because this is based on the system's users external view. It is not related to the programming or number of lines of code. It is not related to all these things. That's why function point can be measured by the any non-technical user also. This is another most important advantage of our system. Now, see this is how we can calculate function point. So, these all are the major factors which we have discussed earlier: external inputs, external outputs, external inquiries, external logical files, external interface files. But most important thing here is weighting factor. So, we should understand the way there are three categories of weighting factor. First one is the low, average and high. So, these values can be lie in these three categories. It can be low, it can be average, it can be high. So, this is the table which already proposed by the Alan Albert for the low values also, for average and high value also. You can see here for the external input we have, if the value of external inputs are low, then we have weighting factor is 3. If the value of the external input is average, then we have external input is 4. If we have external input high, then we have average weighting factor is 6. So, these all are the weighting factors of the different function points. So, we have to use this particular table to calculate the function point of our system. So, this is a calculation matrix we can see here. Firstly we will see here functional units, external inputs, where we have if the value of the external inputs is low, then the value of low will be 3. If the value is average, then we have value 4. If we have high external inputs, then we have weighting factor or complexity 6. In this way, in the external output, if the external outputs have low value, then weighting factor will be 4. If the average value, then the weighting factor will be 5. And if the external outputs are high, then the value will be 7. So, we can, by the help of this weighting factor, we can calculate unadjusted function point table. How we can calculate? So, this is the unadjusted function point count. Now, how we can calculate this unadjusted function point? So, this is the formula to calculate the unadjusted function point. So, you can see here there is a two values z and w. W is for the weighting factor, which we have already discussed, and the value of weighting factor depend on the value external input are high, low, average. It depends on that value only. And the Z is the number of inputs, number of output, number of inquiries. So these two, by the multiply these two factors, we can find out the unadjusted function point. Fine. Now, after the find out the unadjusted function point, we have to calculate only function point, which is adjusted function point, and then we have to multiply it with the help of CAF, which is the complexity adjustment factor. This is the another thing which we have to use here, calculate here. So firstly, we will calculate an adjusted function point, then we will calculate complexity adjustment factor. These two terms we have to calculate, then we multiply these two terms, and then we will find out the function point. So, how we can calculate this complexity adjustment factor? This is the formula for the calculation of the complexity adjustment factor: 0.65 plus 0.01 into sigma Fi, where Fi is some, the value of Fi is from 1 to 14. So, to calculate the Fi, we have some survey questions. So, we will find out the answer of this survey question, then we will find out the value of this Fi. So, we have 14 questions to calculate this Fi, and for all the 40 questions, we will calculate the value of the Fi for I1, I2, I3 and I14. So, we can see here the questions. You can see here, these all are the 14 questions. For example, the first question is, does the system require reliable backup of recovery? So, if this is a requirement of our system, highly required it, then we can say that the value will be significant, and the value will be 4 for the F1. Fine. F2 is the carrier communication required. If it is required moderately, then the value of F2 will be 2. So, in this way, we can calculate all the value of Fi with the help of these questions. So, we have to find out the answers of these questions, and we will give the rating for all the questions. Then we will add all these values, and we will find out the Fi. So we have, this is the summation of the Fi by the help of 14 questions. Now, we will see some examples of the function point, how we can calculate function points. These all are the important metrics we will calculate in the function point: productivity, which is the FP divided by person months, quality, defects by FP function points, cost rupees upon function point, documentation, page of documentation upon FP. The first question is, consider the project with the following functional unit. So, these all are the terms are given in our question. So, you can see a number of user inputs are equal to 50 and number of outputs are 40 here. And number of user inquiries are 35 and user files are 6, and last one, external interfaces are 4. So, these all are factors are given to us: 50, 40, 35, 6 and 4. Assume all complexity adjustment factors and weighing factors are average. Compute the functional point for the project. So, again we have given the value of the weighting factor is average. This is the main thing here we should consider. So, we will use this table for the weighting factor or average. You can see here we have for the these all the factors, and these are the average values for this factor. So, we will multiply given values to these weighting factors. Fine. And then we will find out the unadjusted function point. So, you can see here the UFV is equal to summation of Zij and Wij, where firstly we will calculate 50 into 4, because 50 is the number of inputs and 4 is the average weighting factor for the external user input. Next, 40 is the external outputs and the 5 is the weighting factor for the average value. Fine. So, actually it is given in the question only. That is why we are multiplying with this different weights here. So we will use all these factors and we will multiply with the weighting factors here. Okay, then we will find out the total here with the value of the unadjusted function point is 6 to 8. Now we have to find out the unadjusted function point value. Now we have to find out the function point. To find out the function point, the unadjusted function point will be multiplied with the complexity adjustment factor. Fine. Now we will calculate complexity adjustment factor. The formula is given here, 0.65 plus 0.01 summation of Fi. Okay. So for the Fi we have 14 questions again, and for the value of the all 14 questions here is average already given in the question. That's why we will multiply it with the 3, because you can see here the average, for the average value the value is 3. Fine. So we'll multiply it with the 3, and the end answer will be 1.07. So see, the value of the CAF is 1.07. Now this 1.07 will multiply with the 6 to 8, which is the unadjusted function point, and we will find out the function point value. So by this method we can solve all the numericals of the function point. This is a very simple method to find out the function point. We can see another example also. So this is another example given: 10 low external inputs, 12 high external outputs, 20 low internal logical file, 15 high external interface file, 12 average external inquiries, and a value of complexity adjustment factor of 1.10. So in this case already the value of adjustment factor is already given. We don't want, there is no need to find out the complexity adjustment factor. It is already given in the question only. So we have to find out only the unadjusted function point. So we will apply an adjusted function point as it is mentioned in the question only. Then we will use a table for the function point, and we will use multiply the weighting factor accordingly. Then we will find out here unadjusted function point. To find out the adjusted function point, we will multiply it with the CAF, which is already given in the question, which is 1.10. Again, here in this question we will find out 497.2, which is the function point value. So this type of question can be asked in the exam also, where the complexity adjustment factors are already given. Fine. Next question. This is some long question. Here the external inputs categories, all categories are given. So we have to multiply and add these categories. For example, you can see here external input is given 10 with low complexity, 15 with average complexity, 17 with high complexity. External output given 6 with low complexity, 13 with high complexity. So when these type of questions given, then we have to multiply with the weighting factor and then add all the external inputs and external output. And in the next point we can see here these 3 factors also already given. Significant data communication is given, performance is very critical given, design code may be moderate. So we will find out these values from the given tables, and then we will multiply and we will calculate complexity adjustment factor for these 3 and 4 condition which is already given in the question. So by the help of this table we can find out the values. You can see here because in the external input we have low values also. So 10 is a low value. So 10 into 3, which is equal to 30, 15 into 4, which is equal to 60, and 17 into 6, which is equal to 102, and then we will add these values. So likewise all function point also calculated here, and we will add it after that, and then we will find out the unadjusted function point here if the different categories of the different factors are given in the question. Okay. Now we will have to calculate the complexity adjustment factor, and then we will multiply this unadjusted function point into complexity adjustment factor, and we will find out the function point here. So you can see here we have find out the Fi, summation of Fi. To find out the CAF, the formula of CAF is 0.65.01 into summation of Fi. So we can see here all many factors are average here, so we will take 3 here, but there are 4 conditions which is given in the question, for which we have different values for the factor, and we have apply here, and then we will add these values here. Then we will find out summation of Fi, and we will keep here the summation of Fi is 41. So I have put the value of the Fi here, and after the calculation we will get the CAF or complexity adjustment factor 1.06. Fine. So this is when we find out the complexity adjustment factor, then we will multiply this with the unadjusted function point. So we have already calculated unadjusted function point, and then we will multiply these two terms into each other. So then we will have the answer is 449.44. So this is the final function point. So in this way, you can calculate the function point. So there can be different type of questions may be asked, and you can easily find out the or calculate the value of the function point, which we have discussed in the class, although different variety of the questions we have discussed. So I think you have understand very easily in this lecture about the function point and line of code. Thank you.